If this bill passes, over 40 million Americans could be forced to give up a passport within 1 year or lose their U.S. citizenship automatically. So where does that bill actually stand right now, 7 months later? Stick with me, because the update is not what most people expect. So, what's the newest update on the Senate bill from Ohio Senator Moreno that would end dual citizenship here right now? I've received plenty of messages from viewers asking, hey, it's been nearly 7 months since that bill was first introduced. What's happening with dual citizenship? Will U.S. citizens be barred from holding any citizenship beyond their U.S. citizenship? And in simple terms, where does dual citizenship stand in the U.S. right now? In this video, I'll answer those questions and share some practical thoughts and points to consider about the subject along the way for you. As background, just so you know, if this is the first video you're watching from me on this subject, I made a long-form video explaining the bill, what it says, and how it would operate in more detail. I also recorded a follow-up video discussing constitutionality and whether the bill, as drafted, could be viewed as constitutional and upheld by courts under current legal standards today, overall. So please check out those videos if you want more information about this bill from Senator Moreno that bans dual citizenship in the U.S. right now today. For this one, I'm just going to provide an update for you all. So that's what this video will concentrate on. First though, welcome back to the channel, friends. My name is Arthur James. I'm a lawyer who helps foreign nationals navigate the U.S. legal system. With U.S. citizenship matters, I've helped a great many people successfully become U.S. citizens over the years in practice and in person. So, in other words, foreign nationals becoming U.S. citizens. But I've also helped many U.S. citizens renounce U.S. citizenship. So, I have experience with both sides of how someone can acquire and renounce or give up U.S. citizenship. So, I think everything we're going to discuss, I have quite a bit of experience with on this topic overall personally too. If you like the video and you know you like the content, please hit the like button, because that will help me know what sorts of videos to make regularly next. Also, if you want updates, please subscribe to the channel for more. Now that said, let's jump right into today's topic, which is the current status of Senator Moreno's dual citizenship ban bill in the Senate today. So before we move any farther, let's quickly explain what the bill was intended to do, right? In practical terms. This bill, introduced in the Senate by Senator Moreno of Ohio, said that if it became law, any U.S. citizen who held dual citizenship or multiple citizenship would be affected by the proposal in practice too. Essentially, anyone who has a foreign citizenship would need to renounce that foreign citizenship if they wanted to keep U.S. citizenship here too. And also, any U.S. citizen who acquires a foreign citizenship after already becoming a U.S. citizen would lose status. So, if someone is a U.S. citizen and then naturalizes in another country, that person would automatically lose U.S. citizenship upon taking citizenship in that other country later on. For those just joining us, this bill has a formal name too: the Exclusive Citizenship Act of 2025, officially numbered S.3283. Senator Bernie Moreno introduced it on December 1st, 2025, and it was read twice and referred straight to the Senate Judiciary Committee that same day. Moreno has framed this personally, not just politically. He immigrated from Colombia as a child and renounced his own Colombian citizenship at 18, and he said publicly that pledging allegiance to the United States of America and only to the United States of America was one of the great honors of his life. His argument, in his own words, is that being an American is all or nothing. That's the emotional case behind the bill. But emotional framing and legislative reality are two very different things, and that's really what today's update is about. Now, since this bill was introduced, there has been very little movement. Essentially, the bill has, you could say, stalled in the Senate Judiciary Committee for now, without progress. What has happened is that the bill was co-sponsored by Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas, but beyond that, there have been no committee hearings. There is no companion bill in Congress. For larger efforts that many people support, there's often a companion bill introduced in the other chamber as well in practice. So, if it's a House bill, there'll be a Senate bill introduced, or the reverse, in Congress overall. That did not happen. So at this point, there have been no hearings, no advancement, and only one co-sponsor. And I want to pause here for a second, because I think people underestimate just how many Americans this bill would touch if it ever became law. There's no official government count of how many U.S. citizens hold dual citizenship, but researchers estimate the number at more than 40 million people. That includes people born abroad to American parents, people born in the U.S. to immigrant families, military spouses, naturalized citizens who never gave up their original passport, and plenty of people who never even thought of themselves as dual citizens until this bill made headlines. Advocacy groups like Democrats Abroad have pushed back hard, arguing that dual nationality isn't a threat, but, in their words, a reflection of how interconnected American life already is, through service members, diplomats, aid workers, and business leaders living and working across borders. So this isn't some narrow, niche proposal. If it ever moved, it would be one of the most sweeping citizenship changes in modern U.S. history. And if you visit GovTrack, a website that essentially, provides information on bills and gives predictions about the chances or likelihood that a bill, gets out of committee and actually passes, like receives the required votes and becomes law in the end. It's only 3%, according to its current estimate right now overall, right? So GVR gives it a 3% chance. So there's a 97% chance this will not become law. And that seems likely given where things stand because, like I said, there hasn't even been a committee hearing on it. The likelihood of getting out of committee, reaching the floor, passing, and then moving through all the remaining steps, all the way to the president signing it into law, is still a very long way off at this stage for now, overall in practice. And honestly, that 3% number lines up with what constitutional law tells us too. This isn't the first time Congress has tried something like this, and history isn't on the bill's side. The Supreme Court has already ruled on this exact question, twice. In Afroyim versus Rusk in 1967, and again in Vance versus Terrazas in 1980, the court held that the government cannot strip someone of their U.S. citizenship as a punishment or as a matter of policy. The only way a citizen can lose that status is by voluntarily and intentionally giving it up themselves. Legal scholars and immigration attorneys who've reviewed this bill have pointed out that automatically deeming someone to have relinquished citizenship simply because they didn't file paperwork in time runs squarely into that precedent. Some analysts have gone as far as saying the bill would collapse immediately under judicial review if it were ever signed into law. So even in the very unlikely scenario that this clears the Senate, the House, and gets a presidential signature, it would almost certainly face years of litigation before it could ever actually be enforced. There's also a practical side to this that's gotten less attention, but that I think matters a lot. Some tax and legal analysts have flagged that the bill, as written, doesn't appear to account for downstream effects, things like Social Security benefits, cross-border tax obligations for Americans living abroad, and complications for military retirees who may hold citizenship in a country where they were once stationed. Because the bill would give federal agencies only 180 days after enactment to write the regulations and set up a nationwide system to track and verify who holds foreign citizenship, critics argue there's no realistic way to process that volume of cases in the one-year compliance window the bill sets out. To put it plainly, even the mechanics of how this would actually work in practice haven't been fully thought through yet, which is another reason so many observers don't expect it to move. This bill also isn't happening in a vacuum. It's come up alongside a couple of other citizenship-related storylines this year that are worth knowing about, even though they're separate issues. There's the Save America Act, which deals with voter eligibility and citizenship verification, and has already passed the House earlier this year, though it's currently stalled in the Senate. And separately, the Supreme Court has been reviewing a case about birthright citizenship tied to an executive order from the current administration, with a ruling expected around the middle of this year. Neither of those is the same as Senator Moreno's bill, but together they show that citizenship, as a broader legal category, is getting more attention in Washington right now than it has in a long time. That's part of why so many of you have been asking me for updates. This topic keeps showing up in the news cycle, even when Moreno's specific bill itself isn't moving. So based on this, I think the main practical takeaway, and this is what many people have reached out to me asking about, is that there are so many bills, or really bills in general, right, that get introduced in the Senate and the House, right? But just because a bill is introduced, it does not mean it is law, right? There is a lawmaking process, and it takes time, along with plenty of debate and many steps, etc., before anything can actually become official and binding in practice. So the bottom line here is that many people have reached out to me asking whether they should begin renouncing foreign citizenships or making plans based on this bill. And my general advice to everyone has been to do that only if it makes sense, because there are many reasons to renounce a person's citizenship, and that has nothing to do with this bill. Simply because a bill is introduced does not mean it will become law anytime soon, and everyone would still need to follow rules. And also, I think everyone should keep in mind that even if it were to become law, there would still be a certain amount of time for someone to comply in practice. So there's no requirement to comply immediately the moment a new law is passed and becomes a rule that everyone has to follow. In most cases, right away typically. Usually there's a grace period during which someone may still comply. So, the bottom line is, I wouldn't make any major life decisions based on this bill. And the same idea, applies. There's another bill that's also not moving much that deals with congressional citizenship matters too. So essentially, if someone's in Congress, whether or not they are allowed to be dual citizens, that bill is also at this stage. And that one only applies to, essentially, representatives and senators currently there. So it doesn't even apply to the general public today. And if you zoom out even further, this fits a pattern we've actually seen before. Proposals to restrict or condition U.S. citizenship have surfaced in Congress periodically over the decades, and they tend to fail for very similar reasons every time. They carry high political risk. They affect enormous numbers of voters and their families, and they invite constitutional challenges that can drag on for years without resolution. For a lawmaker, sponsoring a bill that could strip citizenship from millions of Americans, including military families, dual citizens by birth, and naturalized citizens, is a high-cost, low-reward move. That's very likely part of why, 7 months in, this bill still has only one co-sponsor and 0 Democratic support, and why no matching bill has ever appeared in the House. So, taking all of this and everything that's happened here, the best way to sum it up is that this idea of ending dual citizenship for U.S. citizens isn't really moving forward at this point very much yet overall. As I said, I've recorded both videos on the constitutional issues with the idea of forcing U.S. citizens to give up dual citizenship, and also on this bill in greater detail for anyone interested. So, you can check those out. But this is the latest update that so many of you have asked for. I really hope it was useful overall. Here's the honest truth, though. Bills like this don't die quietly. They resurface, sometimes reworded, sometimes attached to something bigger. And if you're one of the tens of millions of dual citizens in this country, you don't want to be caught off guard the next time this becomes a headline. So, if this update actually helped clear things up for you, that's exactly why the like button matters. It tells me you want more of these plain English breakdowns instead of panic-driven headlines. And if you hit subscribe right now, you'll be the first to know the moment anything real changes with this bill. A hearing, a new co-sponsor, a House companion bill, whatever it is, before it even hits the news. Again, if you find the content helpful and you like it, please hit the like button below. And if you want to get updates whenever I record anything new, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day ahead, friend. Bye-bye.